Karen, thank you so much for being with me today on the Deep Dive.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Well, let's dive in. You have been a one-person insights department at Johnsonville for several years now. How do you deliver those strategies to the organization while also doing all of the tactical work?
While I am one real person, I also have an AI knowledge base that my team uses in terms of all of insights, whether it's consumer insights, product insights, customer insights. We all save our data down to a place where our AI knowledge base can find it. And then our marketing, sales, innovation, and even some of our R&D have direct access to it. So that gets rid of all of the simple, Karen, do you have the report for this? Or Karen, what do you know about this topic? People can self-serve. So having democratized insights internally that way, that frees me up a ton of time to work on the things that are truly important that need my attention.
Interesting. So does the existence of that, I'm going to call it a hub or a lake, go back many years?
When I joined Johnsonville 7 years ago today, by the way.
Congratulations.
There was no turnover from the previous staff. They had been without consumer insights for a few months.
Okay.
And I inherited just kind of this mass of files and things, and it was basically every previous insights person's kind of own personal naming system and nothing really organized. So I spent the first 3 months, in addition to trying to learn everything I could about sausage, I spent the first 3 months organizing everything into a database where every project has a number, and you can look it up in Excel, and now that is all accessed through the knowledge platform. So that database, actually, I think the oldest thing I found went back to 2006, but I keep it so that the knowledge base that people have access to has access to the last 4 years. So.
And did you build the knowledge platform?
No, we bought that from Lucy.
Amazing. What an enviable position to be in, where you have that central repository and you have colleagues who will use it themselves.
Oh yeah, they know that if they come and ask me a question and I know it's something they probably could have found there, I'll ask, did you ask Lucy? So I love when I get an email that starts with, Karen, I asked Lucy this, but I can't find it.
Then you have to deal with that one instead of just sending them to Lucy?
Yeah.
Gotcha. That's awesome. So you've often talked about the importance of insight professionals, of understanding the whole business that you work in. How has that been critical to your success?
Since I've been on the client side of research, I have worked coincidentally the entire time in the meat industry. I started my client side experience with 7 years at Hormel, and now I'm at Johnsonville. And at Hormel, I had the privilege to get to experience what was called Meat Science Week. And I really learned, it was taught by our R&D, it was a week-long course taught by our R&D team, learning how to butcher half a hog and things like that. And it gave me a language that really made me understand how products are made and different terms being used, and how those processes come to life and why they are used, so that then both at Hormel and even now at Johnsonville, I'm able to utilize that knowledge in conversations. And every once in a while I'll throw something out to R&D because they're trying to talk about something in layman's terms, and I'll say, oh, you mean XYZ? And they look at me like, how do you know about that? And it just makes it that much more credible when I can speak their language, so that then when I need to, I can use their terms properly and make sure I'm giving them the type of information they need so that they can understand how that translates to the consumer.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The credibility part in particular, both internally, you can talk the talk with the people who know it, but then being able to parlay that into the customer. Yeah, very, very powerful. So you've mentioned before that you're often the only woman in the room when presenting your findings. So what advice do you give to other women in insights about finding their voice and building confidence?
Again, being in the meat world, very masculine.
Yeah.
Although we do have more women getting hired at higher levels. But oftentimes I am the only woman in the room, and it can be, especially in the organization I've been in, and just any organization where you have a lot of men and you're the only woman, it can be easy to not be heard because, and I have a loud voice, but I just naturally, the guys get started talking about something and you don't want to talk about something 3 topics later. So when I have the floor, I make sure I'm not just presenting the insights, I'm presenting recommendations. And I even went through this with my intern this summer. a lovely young woman from Butler, and really in every project that she worked on, I was like, what do you recommend? And she's like, I get to make a recommendation? And I said, yeah, you get to make a recommendation because you're the one that knows more about the research than anyone else in the room.
Yeah.
So based on everything you know, like whether they take your recommendation or not, that's another story.
Yeah.
Because they are taking into account other factors, but they need to know, what do you recommend? So that's something I share with any researcher, but I really encourage women to do that, because a lot of times when they are the only one in a room with people with higher titles, and oftentimes the only female, they feel like, well, everyone's going to overrule me anyway, I'm not going to take a stand. But I really try to encourage people, take a stand. You know the research better than anyone else in the room, and you need to present yourself that way.
Interesting. So it's coaching them to overcome the, I'll give you the facts, but I won't zoom to have the answer.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. My first job out of college was at a company where one of their values was the obligation to dissent. And I loved that because it meant that the most junior analyst, which was me, so the most senior person in the world, regardless if you were man or woman, wasn't just entitled to speak up, but was obligated to put their point of view forward.
That is a great way to put it. I love that.
Yeah, it's a great way to put it, but I will definitely echo that it is very hard sometimes to make sure that you are heard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find in meetings when somebody says something I've already said or talks over, I very deliberately correct it.
Yeah.
And I tell women to do that as well.
Oh, yeah. It's famous for, wait, I said that 5 minutes ago and no one said anything, and now he said it and it's a genius idea. No, you have to say, wait, I just said that 5 minutes ago.
Yes, and I say it for the women in the room too.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've expressed growing concern about AI eliminating entry-level insights roles. What do you think this means about our industry's future, and how do you think AI could help solve the AI problem we have?
What I'm most concerned about is I see jobs that get posted, and very rarely do you see entry-level jobs. And we're at a conference, and the speaker yesterday talked about how, even though he's in the academic world now, he started working for the market research company that his dad worked for by doing data entry. And that's how a lot of us, I'm aging myself, I've been in the industry for decades, got our start.
Yeah.
We started doing the really easy entry-level grunt work type of things, and then built up experience to where we could then advance our careers.
Yeah.
AI is taking away a lot of those. Well, automation in general started it, but now AI is even taking away further a lot of those entry-level tasks, which are great for your bottom line. And if you're a vendor or a client-side researcher trying to do things on your own, but it's taking away those experiences for entry-level people. So, for example, my intern from two years ago, she worked for me for 8 months, was awesome. I only had her for the 8 months because it was an internship, and when she was done, I gave her letters of recommendation. I introduced her to people, sent her 1 million job postings and things, and everything required 2 to 3 years experience. But she looked for a year, and I think on the side she was working as a barista or something in the meantime while she was trying to find a job. And she ended up finally getting a job after a year, and not in the insights world. And it just crushed me. And the good thing is that she is working as an administrative assistant somewhere, but she is going to be able to use some of her insights knowledge to help one of their internal teams at the small company do some research among their consumers. So she's going to get some experience. But she's a fantastic person. I wish I could hire her full time, but I can't. And it's a shame that because she doesn't have that 2 to 3 years, she can't get to now what is considered kind of entry level in the industry. And I think AI is taking that away. Where I think AI could help, I think as we rely on those tasks for AI, we need to be lowering our expectations in terms of number of years and look for different skill sets. Look for people that can make judgments and people that are just naturally curious, because those kind of skills, those softer skills, are things that you can't teach, and AI is still not human. So if we lower our years of experience expectation and look for different skill sets, I think we can still hire some great people right out of college or master's programs and keep the industry alive. Because if we stop helping those people find jobs 10, 20 years from now, we're not going to have an industry because no one's going to be able to enter it.
Yeah. And what you said earlier about knowing something end to end, and starting at the bottom and really understanding the business is really important. And a lot of that does come from coming in as the grunt and working your way forward. The other thing that resonated is this morning I was reading a blog post about critical thinking, and it was about a woman who's sending her daughter to college and talking about how critical thinking is the skill that you need to graduate with.
Yeah.
Because that's what AI can't do.
Yeah.
I wonder, do you have a perspective on what that means for what we recruit for as an industry? Like, what do we look for in our next generation of researchers?
This might be a little self-serving.
You're allowed. You know the space. You're allowed.
But I don't have a business degree of any sort. I was an anthropology and social sciences double major. And the only times I ever walked in the College of Business at the university I went to was to take macro and microeconomics. Other than that, I was in the College of Arts building.
Yep.
That said, I think our industry tends to put a lot of emphasis on looking for people that are coming out of business schools and marketing schools, marketing programs, and social sciences. Market research is a social science.
Yep.
And I think we need to expand our aperture and start courting and working with those types of programs and encouraging those people, because there's a lot of critical thinking skills that you're taught in those more, more liberal arts, social science majors, and bringing those people in will bring in fresh perspective and have a lot of those same skills that those other more very business-specific majors don't have.
Yeah. Have you found this resonate within Johnsonville, and that being the way you're going in terms of hiring?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I make it well known that I do not have a business degree. I don't have an MBA.
Yeah.
And I think people think I have a very fresh perspective. And because I'm bringing the consumer, they know that my job is to understand other humans. And so those are those skills that I'm using. And I have learned a lot about business in my career. And so I can walk the walk and talk the talk.
Yep.
And I've taken different extra training classes and things to understand the finance world or innovation and things like that. But at the same time, I am bringing a different point of view, and I'm looking at the world differently than anyone else is, and I have to help them see the world in a different way than what they're seeing when they're just looking at spreadsheets and the bottom line.
I think that everybody who's listening to this who is young is going to be very inspired and happy to hear that you and I both see that there is a future. It just looks at this kind of thing and this kind of thinking.
Yep.
Yeah. Karen, thank you so much for spending time with me today. I really appreciate you being on the Deep Dive.
Well, thank you for having me, Deidre.